rush, no show. Milk turns silk in careful time. Dark cup from Lake clean and slow. Mountain groom, strong and true. A Colombian cappuccino made right here above the blue.
I didn't leave because I was angry. I left because everything got loud. Every voice trying to win the moment. Nobody listening to the ground. I wanted space, not distance from reality. Distance from the noise, pretending to be reality. I stepped off the treadmill, left the shouting behind. No flashing banners in my head, just space to think and time. They sell you urgency, they sell you fear. Every voice is louder, but nothing's clear. I don't listen to what's promised, I watch what happens. I don't follow tone, I follow patterns. No borrowed fear, no rented rage, just facts moving across the page. What to build, choices form. Watch who bends, watch who storms. Signals matter, noise is cheap. What they say versus what they keep. This is Sane in Colombia, where the volume comes down. No talking points, no marching sound. I don't chase the noise, I don't rent my mind. I step back far enough to see the design. Coffee on the table, mountains in the frame. Thinking for myself, that's how I stay sane. Living sane in Colombia. Sane in Colombia. Sane in Colombia.
Good morning. Starting early. I was reading something, it was an email. Somebody had sent me an email, so I'm reading through it. And I look up at the clock and I go, holy crap. I misread the clock. I don't know what I was thinking. So I figured, well, let's get going now. Here we are, early. Should I drag my heels or just start? I think we'll just start. So today I'm talking about maybe a little more detail on using AI. Why do I keep doing these beginner AI things? Well, because I don't know if there's an audience for it, and I don't know if there is, where they stand. But this is what I do know. Number one in the world in AI usage is Singapore. Number two is UAE, Arab Emirates. The United States is way down the list, like number 24. and it's about 20% of the population, which is shocking. I'm really surprised. The United States leads in AI in general, as far as the output of it, the creation of it, but people aren't using it. And I think it's because we have a picture in our mind about what AI is. You know, there's been enough movies made where it's taken over the world. When we think AI, we think robotics. Up till now, pretty different things. But there is potential of something going haywire with AI. On the other hand, there's an awful lot of good that can be done. Today, I'm going to talk about Claude, Anthropic's, but it applies also to ChatGPT. They're almost identical in the way they operate. They're nowhere near identical in their abilities, which is why I switched to Anthropic, but they operate almost the same. So you can go back and forth, which I do. But I'm going to talk about things to look for, things that are important to set up. There's been a big issue lately about using tokens too fast. Tokens are simply a little block measurement, and you get so many. So on a free one, you get this much. And if you pay $20 a month, you get this much. If you pay $100 a month, you get that much. And what happens, you start out, you try to use the free one, and you realize pretty quick that if you're actually doing more than just having a little conversation for the fun of it, that you run out pretty quick. And so I'm gonna talk about that. There's a lot of techniques you can use that will save those tokens. That in having conversation with some people, it doesn't seem to be very well known how those tokens are created and what they consist of and why you go through them so fast. So we'll talk about that today also. All right, so we hit 11 o'clock. We can get going. Thank you for those that joined in. I appreciate it. Bad throat. I've got notes up on the screen here for me. I'm not going to read like it's a text, but I'm going to be referring to them. Because I tend to wander. All right, so Claude, because I prefer Claude, and it seems that the majority of people that use AI have been gravitating to Claude because it up until now has been superior. Now understand that when I talk about Anthropic and Claude, it's not that I have any kind of brand loyalty with them. I could care less. I have to admit, I do avoid DeepSeek, the Chinese version. But there's it's not very good. It's good at some things, but it's not very good. But I'd probably avoid it anyway. Excuse me. But you got Gemini, you've got Claude, you got XAI or Grok, and you got ChatGPT. And the thing is, what's best for March and April may not be best come May and June and July. So it's ever changing, but you do get comfortable with setting certain things up. I'll explain how I've set up Anthropic, that I've gotten comfortable with it. But I also use Gemini and ChatGPT for different things. Excuse me. All right, so I mentioned the tokens. The first thing you want to know is that you've got a free version. And this free version has a limit. So what happens is you'll be in there. If you're at the beginning and you're using the free, you're probably just using the chat prompt. You might be asking about a medication that you take or a place that you want to go visit, or who knows, whatever you're doing. And all of a sudden, it just stops working. That's because you've hit the limit. Right in the middle of things, doesn't matter, doesn't care. When it hits that limit, it ends. Now, the nice thing is, it just means you've hit your, well, I'll call it a daily cap, although it's really not for the day. What happens? You wait a few hours and it resets, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. It kind of depends. For example, on one of them, it said every 2 hours or every 4 hours, except it was refreshing every 2 hours. I think it depends on the usage. So I think it goes up to 4 hours. But the nice thing is, in 2 to 4 hours, you get a new set. Now with free, it doesn't go very far. It really is more to sample it and get you used to it and make you want to, keep using it. And then you can pay for $20 is the next tier for GPT, and it's also the same for Claude. I'm really sorry about my throat. It's just a never-ending, ongoing problem. So if you get a paid plan, then what you have is more longer chat threads. You also have the option to use more powerful models, and you get a priority access, which doesn't mean much until you've been using it a lot. Then there's a value to it. In very heavy times with the free, you can find that you're just not getting access to it. It's just not functioning. And it's because that's the first one they're going to cut off. So, oh, damn. I know you don't like hearing the coughing in your ear. Really sorry about that. So, the Claude, it was having a lot of problems recently. I was having a lot of problems recently of eating up its tokens. And people, it's snowballed. People started complaining. They're going to various sites like X and whatever, and it was a snowball effect. It didn't affect me. I never saw it, but a lot of people said that they were on a $20 level or even the $100 level, and they were running out like that. And so Anthropic sent everybody, well, I don't know how much they sent everybody, but they sent me $100 for the account as compensation. I never had the issue. And during that time, I was using the hell out of it. I mean, I was on here at least 12 hours a day working on that software. So, I mean, that was kind of nice. But let's say you're using the free and you had a small project. Maybe you wanted to put together a pamphlet to send back to people. I'm overseas, so maybe I want to put together a pamphlet about where I live and make it kind of cool. And I don't want to spend my life on it because I can do it so easily. I'm going to use AI to do it and then send it back to friends back home, something like that. So I start using Claude and I hit the mark where I can't continue with it. I can then go over to ChatGPT, enter in the work that I've used up to that point, and continue on. And when I run out of time with ChatGPT, which is more generous with their free level, I could switch it over to Gemini. And by the time I get done with Gemini, I could probably go back to Claude, or maybe I have to wait 10 minutes or something. So there's ways around having to pay unless you're into a real serious project. All right, so I want to talk about the memory. It's very important. Let me let's see. Let me go to, here's my Claude up on the screen. Let me get over to it myself. Oh, new, try Opus 4.7. I didn't realize they had new one come out. Okay, I've got it on Opus. While I'm here, let me show you this. If you're in here, here's your choices. Well, here's my choices. I'm on a paid account. But you see this Sonnet 4.6? Now, I don't know on Opus, but Sonnet 4.6 was almost the same as Opus 4.7. Opus was better with coding, but even that was marginally better. But I did use it. I had less corrections to make. But for a lot of things, like the book that I'm working on, Sonnet and Opus, there's no difference except you get a lot more token usage with almost twice as much with Sonnet 4.6. So it's good to know that there's a new version. I'll have to check that out. So down here in the left corner, I'll go to settings. And here at settings, this is where enter in stuff about yourself. This doesn't really matter. Billing, usage. This is where you can keep track. Current session, resets in 1 hour and 51 minutes. I took this last week off. I had to get a break. I've been too immersed in this for the last year and a half. So I took the last week off, but it tracks different models. Here's Sonnet only. Weekly limit. So you get a current session, which is by the hour, and then weekly. So mine resets on Saturdays. All right, but that's not what let me get to capabilities. Here it is. All right, this is a change. This is the memory that Anthropic keeps of you. But you can turn it on and off. So as you're talking to Anthropic, it will remember certain things about you if you have it enabled. So you want to go to capabilities and kind of scan down here. Artifacts, I'll talk about that in a minute. I've got it turned on. I'm not going to go through all the detail of that, but this was the one I wanted to. This right here, I can click on this and it will show me what the computer has saved about me personally, what's it's picked up about me by working with it. That used to be hidden. You couldn't see it. Somewhere just recently, they made it accessible. You always kind of wondered why is it hidden? What's it got on me? Okay. All right. Hold on here. So the memory system is pretty good. Now, what I did, there's memory and there's also continuity. And this is a big one. The continuity is when you talk to the chat. Let's say here, I open up a new chat. So I talk away. It will remember everything within that chat. But if it gets kind of full, or I want to change the topic, and I try to keep things organized, and I open another chat, it doesn't remember anything in that other thread, except there's ways around it. And this is really important to know. You see over here on the left side where it says projects. This is also something relatively new with Anthropic, and it's a huge improvement. Here's my projects here. I've got Sane in Colombia, Coffee Time Live, Merging Personalities, my life book, different things like that. So we'll go to my life book. So here are the various chats that I've used. Over here are documents that I've put. So in other words, all the handwritten work that I did for the life book, I loaded it in so it knows. That way it can kind of compile and organize and do that kind of editing work for me. This within this project, every one of these become accessible to the chat that you're working with. So if I talk in a new chat and I refer to something from 2 months ago, maybe a thread way down here, it can look at that and remember that conversation or whatever it is you're trying to pick out of there. It can also look at all of these documents. So when I'm working on the life book, it has the context of every bit of that project, every bit of what I'm working on. Now, up until recently, each chat only knew the chat, but it could look at these files. But it is now expanded where it can look at all of it. Now, I'm going to take you over to, let's take a look at Chat GPT. Let's see. Here we go. Share. It's on the screen. Yes. Okay. So here you got the same thing. Up here, you've got a new chat. If I want to open it up, down here in the lower left, I've got the account. I can go to settings. I've got similar settings in it. I have this on free. For 14 months, I had this on the $20 one, but I just got tired of dealing with it. But if you look over here, you see projects. And so I can go here, Coffee Time Live. It's a little different in that when I click on projects in Claude, it shows me all in those little squares. This one doesn't do it, and if there's some you don't see, so you've got to expand it a little bit. Here's my life book project. So here they didn't have the documents the same way, the files, but this is the way they have it now. You click on this tab here, so you got chats, and then you've got sources. File limit reached. Yeah, see, I've got all these because when I was paid, I could load those in. On the free, you can only put in five files, but it doesn't delete them. They're still there and accessible, which is another way to do things. You pay $20, get a whole bunch of things set up, and then cancel it and go back to the free, and then work off of what you set up. Again, it depends on the size of the project. If it's any kind of serious project, you're going to want to have the paid level. Most things I've done, I was able to accomplish with the $20 level, free or $20. It was only when I got heavy into the software and I realized it was going to take me some months to finish that I kicked up to the $100 level, and I was able to get all that work done in about, well, at that point, about another 2.5 weeks. And I've kicked it back to the $20, but it's going to carry all that extra usage. So it's a bad time for me to take a break, but I needed a break from it. Okay, so as I said, the layout's basically the same. Here you've got Codex if you're into coding, and with the Claude, you actually have co-work, and which is an agent, and you've got code, but that's on a desktop version. I don't know how important that is. All right, let's see. Where am I? Okay, I mentioned the memory. The memory in the chat. Okay, We talked about the artifacts panel. What is the artifacts panel? Let's see if I can pull it up here. Come on. Here we go. All right, here you see there's some room for document. So if I click on it, over here is a document in a format. This was my notes for today. See, they're just those are my notes for today. Now I can download it. I can print it from here. So there's an important thing to know about another thing about tokens. When I'm working on something, if I want to plug in some information, I can copy and paste it here, right? So if I see an article and I want to probe it and ask questions about it, have it do a search or whatever, I can copy and paste that over there. If I've got a prescription and it was emailed to me, I can copy and paste it there. Or I could take that prescription and throw it in there as a document, a PDF, a photo, whatever format it's in, I can throw that in there. Now, it's the exact same information. If you copy and paste it, it's going in as basic text. It uses about 1/10 of the tokens that if I take that as a picture or a PDF, because everything that goes in here that isn't just basic text or an MD file, that's what AIs use as an MD file, which is like a text. If it's not that, then it has to pull out a skill and interpret it. It can't read a PDF unless it pulls out a skill that enables it to read that PDF to do something with it. Now, early on, I didn't realize that, and I had a whole bunch of PDF. Well, it was my medical records, because I'm here in Colombia and everything was in Spanish, and I felt I understood what was going on. But one day I said, well, I'm going to feed this in and see what it has to say. And there were some things that came up that I didn't realize, because my Spanish isn't that good. I thought I understood it, but there's some nuances I didn't get, which, by the way, Google Translate is childish compared to the ability of Anthropic's translations. So anyway, I loaded all these PDFs in there, and I kept eating up all these tokens, and that was why I didn't realize it. And that's when I learned. That's what you tend to do, is learn the hard way. So putting text in, copy and paste, you're going to go a lot further on the tokens that you have by doing that. Bear with me here. I got a message blowing up on me, and I don't think it's important at all. All right, let's see. I got to go through something here. I was clicking on that and I lost my notes. I forget where I was. Artifacts panel. I covered that. I don't know why they call it artifact, but it's very useful. If you're doing any kind of formatting, you can tell it to, like, if you want it in a Word file or if you want it in a PDF or whatever, you can give it instructions to do that. And you can look it over. Like I did a free document that I posted up on an AI Facebook page, but I wanted to have a nice looking cover page. And so I had it, I gave it instructions for a cover page. We did a couple refinements of it, and I could see it right on the screen. And then I went ahead and, saved it as a file. So it's pretty useful. Kind of goes without saying that, as I was telling you, you can load a PDF, an image, a spreadsheet, a Word file. It'll take all of those, which is really useful. Gemini, I think it was Gemini, was having problems with certain formats. It may have changed by now, but it was struggling with certain things. It just wouldn't read it. Oh, another place where it comes in handy. Let's say you've got an article and it's in a PDF and maybe it's 14 pages, and it's not so important that you want to take the time to read through it, except maybe there's something important about it. You're not sure. So you can throw it in there and say, summarize this in one paragraph. Tell me if there's anything important. As it gets to know you, it knows what's important to you. And so it can kind of scan that in a matter of a couple seconds, and it'll tell you whether it was, worth going back and reading it or not. That happens a lot for me because I do a lot of research, and that's one of the areas where it saves me a ton of time. Yeah, I'm really sorry. I can't believe I set this thing way back. Okay. There's a lot of talk about prompt and prompting, and you see on the internet where people are selling these prompts. Buy 70 of the best prompts to get the most out of it, and like that. And that's a way they're making money, but you absolutely don't need it. And here's why. A document that I mentioned before, actually, if you want it, just write to me, I'll give it to you. And it talks about prompts. And it's a free thing, because I think it's silly that people are selling prompts as if they know specifically what it is you want to do. And in most cases where they're selling them, they're so overcomplicated, completely unnecessary, and it's actually getting AI to process more than it needs to do. And you can kind of cross it up. All you have to do is be as complete as possible. The more vague you are, the more it's going to make mistakes, the more it's going to lie to you. It doesn't understand, so it's going to pretend that it does, and it's going to give you a result based on a guess. The more tokens you're going to use, because you're going to have to clarify and then clarify and then clarify, and you can get frustrated. So you can just start off by filling in the blanks. It's like filling out a sentence. You need a subject and a verb, and you want to have it complete. If you have a 1 or 2 word sentence, people aren't going to fully understand what you're saying. But you have a 10-word sentence or a 12-word sentence, the more adjectives you throw in there, the more they're going to understand. And prompts are like that. So just put it as being complete. And if you're not sure, you can ask AI. Say, I'm trying to achieve XYZ. What would be the best way to tell you to do that? And it's amazing, whereas if you put in XYZ, maybe there's things about it that you didn't think of, and you have 1 or 2 rounds to clarify. But if you ask it the question, it will fill in all those gaps for you and create the prompt for you. And I don't ever, well, I shouldn't say ever, occasionally where it's really critical, but it's very rare for me to sit there and say, okay, imagine that you're an expert accountant or you're an expert book editor, or because that's how a lot of prompts begin. Imagine that you are whatever the profession is. And they go on with like 2 paragraphs worth of minute detail. That's a lot of extra work. By the time you're done with it, you could have just done the task yourself very often. So I think it's important to just be complete, but you don't have to go crazy with it because you're dealing with AI. It understands patterns. It gets where you're trying to go with that as long as you give it enough to work with. And if it's not quite enough, just ask it and it will tell you. Once I realized that maybe I'm not posing things in the best way and got AI to do it for me, then it wasn't very long, just a handful of those, and I could see exactly what was actually important to it. And that's when I realized that all these prompts out there that people are selling, 140 prompts and 70. There's one that's 70 prompts and they're selling it for like $30 or something. It's ridiculous. You got AI to do that for you. Why would you pay somebody? Do I still have that on the screen? Yeah, I don't think we need that on the screen. All right. I appreciate you guys hanging in there. There's an awful lot of pauses today. It's because of my screw ups. It's I can't believe I lost my notes. Okay. It goes at its own pace. Yeah, I ask AI. It says here. I asked it this morning. How would you phrase the best way to do it? It says concise, no preamble, direct answers first. Claude takes that instruction seriously and keeps it, which goes to tokens again. ChatGPT is the absolute worst in the world, but Anthropic has some of it. Gemini has some of it. They want to prolong a conversation. So let's say you ask it, I don't know, it's if you were a human, would you choose to believe in God? It might give you 4-page long response, wandering all over the place. ChatGPT is just horrible with that. And it will always end with a question to prompt you to keep going. And it's usually whatever the conversation is, it's usually interesting enough to where you want to do that. Well, you're gobbling up tokens. So what you want to do is make sure that it doesn't wax poetic in its response. You tell it to be concise, tell it to give you a direct answer. You don't need a preparation statement to position it or frame it. Just give me the answer directly. I don't need your opinion. I don't need, which is another thing. AI will kiss your ass. It's built in. It's horrible. Everything that you do and say is just fantastic. You know, some people find that pleasant. Personally, it annoys the piss out of me because it's bogus and it's a waste of time. But it will do that. So you ask the question and it'll sit there and tell you about, first of all, how wonderful that question is. And it was so rare and so insightful. And most people wouldn't do that. And if you think about it, you say, okay, what would most people do? How do you know what most people would do? I thought this was your only entry into the world, into this chat. So when did you get to talk to most people? You call it out on its logic. When you're learning AI, that's a lot of fun to call it out because there's so many logical gaps. But that's how, it's one way to learn how it functions. But you want to get around all that stuff. So you don't need the flowery introductions, and you don't need endless opinions, and it could be this way or it could be that way. And some people in Antarctica might think it'll do all of that. And then you've got the chore of having to sit there and read through that mess. So you have to give it directions. With Anthropic, if you're in a project, you can give instructions, specific instructions. Whenever I ask you a question, every time, no matter what the chat is, this is how I want you to respond to me. And it will do that. There's another thing. When I'm doing research and I'm not familiar with the topic, I will have it pose 2 or 3 clarifying questions back to me. So if I put it in a general instruction, and then I'll say, whatever it is, the rainfall of such and such desert or something like that. And it will pose clarifying questions about the topic that I'm looking for. And so it's kind of creating a more specific prompt. And so then when it finally does give me the answer, it built in with those concise instructions, it'll just be a couple sentences instead of these big, long, lengthy things. So you can save a lot of tokens that way. You can also save a lot of wasted time, because reading through all that nonsense, that was one of the things that drove me away from ChatGPT. Well, there were other things too, but it just frustrated me so bad, because I would give it those kind of instructions and it would obey it for the next question or whatever, but you get 2 or 3 down and it would forget it and it would go right back to that mess. With Anthropic, I can tell it and it locks it in. It's there. It's so much better at that, because ChatGPT can only handle this much material and Anthropic can handle this much. Gemini makes a claim that it can handle 1 million tokens, and Anthropic can, with Opus, can handle 1 million tokens. But if you work with the two of them, there's light year difference between the two of them. The Anthropic can handle so much more than what Gemini is, even though the technical specs make the same claim. And I think it has more to do with how it processes. XAI is either at or coming out with the 3 million token that they can handle. I don't think it's there yet, but I think it's in the next model coming out, which that would probably be pretty amazing. That would mean it could probably handle several books worth of information. Okay, so turn the memory on, understand the usage limits, use the artifacts panel. That's always a good thing. Uploading files, you definitely want to take advantage of that system. For me personally, depending on what it is, I'll copy and paste if it's something relatively easy to do that. But if I've got a document that's 15 pages long, I don't want to sit and go through and copy and paste it all. Your finger slips on the mouse and you lost it and you got to go back. For me, it's not worth it. I'll go ahead and throw them in there. And you can drag and drop there, or you can, click the little add thing, but it's very easy to do that. Okay. I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover today. Hopefully for those that are here is useful. Sorry I put you to sleep. I really feel bad about all the gaps in it. But it's the way it goes sometimes. If you have any questions, give me a holler. If you want any kind of free documents that I have that I've put together, just ask me and I'll send it off to you. And with that, I'm going to end it. I got a doctor appointment. They do house calls here, which is very nice. Just come for a general checkup to see if I'm still ticking. And So hope you all have a good day. Appreciate you being here. And I will see you, well, next time. Well, I've got coffee time Sunday. I was thinking about switching this to Sunday. I don't know. It's a lot. I don't know if my throat will hold up, but I probably will switch it to Saturdays. And with that, I'll see you next time.